WHAT News, where we say what you want to hear.
Hi, my name is Brandon.
And I'm Haley. And we're from WHAT News.
Today, you'll be listening to Haley with Old Faithful, Nathaniel talking about World War II, and Ryan and how cheetahs are endangered.
Brandon broadcasting about cloning, Emma reporting on the most dangerous toy, Jeffrey with some interesting facts on baseball, and Alexa introducing Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill.
That sounds really interesting. I can't wait to listen to all of them.
Me too.
So let's get started.
First up, Emma with the most dangerous toy.
Thanks, Haley. It's kind of surprising that our grandparents even survived the 1950s, considering the toys, specifically the science kits that were available. Disclaimer, most of the sets I mentioned were sold around the 1950s are now only for collectors. My first reason are the contents that are included in some kits are highly dangerous. Some kits contain potassium nitrate, a component of gunpowder, and sodium ferrocyanide. This is now classified as poison. Buying any of these could have been deadly. There were 3 sets that held radioactive ores, which is long-time exposure can either mutate your genes or kill you. These ores were usually clear on the box, but it doesn't just end with the chemicals. The test tubes and cotton swabs could pose choking hazards. The whole kit could have been deadly. Probably one of the most deadly science kits out there was the Gilbert U-238 Atomic Energy Lab. This kit had alpha, gamma, and beta sources of radioactive ores. This wasn't even the only science kit like it, but there are 3 more kits with radioactive ores. But what about today? I've seen other advertised radioactive toys on the market. I've seen a Dr. Dreadful nuclear explosion mix. The odd thing is, it's not a real explosion. It's a drink that has 80 calories, and the worst it can do is stain your clothes. Another good example is atomic fireballs. When first hearing the name, you would think these are really dangerous. These candies are cinnamon flavored, not radioactive either. Many times, atomic or nuclear is just an expression. If I avoid anything from the past, is always to check the contents or description of a product before buying. Who knows what's inside? Each product could be deadly. Thankfully, most of these products are not discontinued. Somehow our grandparents survived this. Back to you, Brandon.
Thanks, Emma.
I never knew that child's toys could have 3 radioactive ores.
How'd our grandparents survive with those toys when they were kids?
I know, right?
Next up, Nathaniel talking about the history of World War II.
Thanks, Brandon. Who was Hitler? Hitler was an infamous dictator, and one of his quotes was, "If you tell a big enough lie, tell it frequently enough, it might just be believed." When you hear the words World War II, what do you think of? Many of us think about Hitler, the Nazis, execution of Jews, and Pearl Harbor. World War II was not just about Adolf Hitler. It was about the U.S., Europe, and parts of Asia. Europe and Asia were in the war for 6 years, to 1939 to 1945, with U.S. involvement occurring for 4 years, beginning on December 7, 1941, with the attack on Pearl Harbor. The fight was brutal. About 4,000 U.S. military people died, and according to History.com, about 45 to 60 million civilians died, and approximately 4.3 million German soldiers died, and about 6 million Jews were murdered in concentration camps as part of Hitler's diabolical final solution, known as the Holocaust. The Nazis also killed gypsies and disabled people. But Hitler didn't kill anyone. Hitler told the Nazis to kill Jews, disabled people, and gypsies. And for some reason, Hitler saved blonde-haired, blue-eyed people and killed Jews. And he loved his mother, but his mother was Jewish. In 1945, the Allies approached Hitler and Hitler's wife, and they said, "Surrender or we'll kill you." So Hitler and his wife surrendered, and it is believed that Hitler and his wife committed suicide or died from ballistic trauma on April 20th, 1945. A quote from Hitler, "Those who want to live, let them fight, and those who do not want to fight in this world of eternal struggle do not deserve to live." Back to you, Brandon.
Thanks, Nathaniel.
I wonder why Hitler hated Jews so much.
And his mother was Jewish, and he didn't hate his mother.
Now Ryan, and now cheetahs are endangered.
Thanks, Brandon. Even though the cheetah is a popular animal, they are actually very rare. In fact, just about a month ago, National Geographic reported that the African cheetah would be moved to the endangered list. At 70 miles per hour, they are the fastest animals in the world. In the early 1900s, an estimated 100,000 cheetahs were left in the world, and that number today is about 7,000. The cheetah is predicted to be extinct by around the year 2030, if we don't do anything to help. There are multiple issues that are killing the cheetahs, including habitat loss, humans, and the fact that many cubs die early. by being eaten by their predators, lions, hyenas, and leopards. Also, their prey, antelopes, gazelles, impalas, and wildebeests, and other small mammals are dying quickly from poachers, which is making it more difficult for cheetahs to hunt. Although cheetahs are dying quickly, a lot is being done to help. Numbers of organizations are fighting to help these animals. Some people are also teaching farmers not to harm cheetahs, and illegal poachers are being arrested. It would be a huge loss to lose these amazing, talented creatures. There are lots of ways we can help save cheetahs from extinction, such as donate to the National Geographic Big Cats Foundation, the Cheetah Conservation Fund, and much more. If we do all these things, we just might be able to save the cheetahs. Back to you, Haley.
Thanks, Ryan.
Wow, I never knew that cheetahs are becoming extinct.
In the 1900s, there used to be around 100,000 cheetahs in the world. Now there's about 7,100.
That's a huge decrease. I hope they'll be okay.
Now Alexa introducing Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill.
Thanks, Haley. American money is going through some big changes. The last time American currency has gone through a big change was 1929. But now it was just recently announced that Harriet Tubman, who was a Union spy during the Civil War, will take Andrew Jackson's place on the $20 bill. Harriet Tubman will be the first woman on American paper money. Women have only been on coins in the past. For example, Martha Washington's portrait was shown on the $1 silver certificate in the late 19th century. Sacagawea's portrait was also shown on the $1 coin, which has been made every year since 2000. The Treasury Secretary Jacob J. Lew announced in April 2016 that images of women will also appear in other dollar bills, such as the $5 bill. The Treasury Department abandoned their previous plan of replacing Alexander Hamilton with a woman on the $10 bill. The Treasury Secretary Jacob Lew was surprised by the amount of support to keep Hamilton on the bill, and he assumed it had to do with the popularity of the Broadway show Alexander Hamilton. So instead, they've decided to put a woman on the back of the $10 bill. As I've said, the last time American currency has gone through a big change was 1929, so it's about time women are being put on American paper money. Back to you, Brandon.
Thanks, Alexa.
I can't believe that Harriet Tubman is going to be on the $20 bill. She's going to be the first woman on it.
Harriet Tubman definitely deserves to be on the $20 bill.
I agree.
Now Haley, with the Old Faithful.
Thanks, Brandon. Did you know that Old Faithful Geyser is a sign of danger to Yellowstone National Park? It's true. Old Faithful may be a big attraction, but it's really just part of a volcano there. Though it will be over 1,000, maybe even 10,000 years till the next eruption possibly could happen, there's already been 3 major eruptions. Some interesting facts are before the geyser erupts, it rumbles. It's sort of like a warning that people should come over and watch. The first eruption was in 1870, and the same day the Washburn expedition named the geyser Old Faithful. Old Faithful may be a sign of danger, but it is very beautiful. It erupts every 35 to 135 minutes, may last 1.5 to 5 minutes, and can rise to 90 to 184 feet. That's about as high as a 20-story building. Old Faithful temperature has registered up to 204 degrees Fahrenheit, so you have to stand 300 feet back. This is because Yellowstone's geyser has a large egg-shaped chamber that connects to the mouth of Old Faithful by a pipe. After every eruption, water levels rise in the chamber and send steam bubbles into the outlet which creates a bubble trap that leads to eventual steam explosions. Unfortunately, Old Faithful is in Wyoming, which is 2,159 miles away from New Hampshire. But trust me, it's worth the trip. Back to you, Brandon.
Thanks, Haley.
Old Faithful is definitely a good place to visit.
If I went to Yellowstone National Park, I would for sure visit Old Faithful.
Now Jeffrey with history of baseball.
Thanks, Haley. Do you like baseball? I do. Did you know that it is the most second popular sport in the USA? Was invented in 1839 by Elvin AA. The first stadium built was Fortress Field. It was home to the Pittsburgh Pirates. A group of New York City men found the Knickerbockers Baseball Club on September 23, 1845. Prior to 1849, players wore a ribbon around their shirts instead of team uniforms. The first team to play by the rules was the New York Knickerbockers. The major leagues did not expand after World War II. In 1903, the first World Series was played. The Boston Red Stockings versus the Pittsburgh Pirates, with Boston coming out on top. In 1930, the baseball glove was invented. Before fielding gloves were involved, they used their hands to catch and field the ball. In 1936, the Baseball Hall of Fame was opened, and in 1939, the Little League Baseball started. In 1947, Jackie Robinson was the first African American to join the major leagues. Currently, 6 million kids play baseball today. You should play baseball today. Now back to you, Brandon.
Thanks, Jeffrey.
I can't believe that baseball was invented in 1907.
And baseball is the second most popular sport in the USA.
Now, Brandon, broadcasting cloning.
Thanks, Haley. Cloning. Cloning produces genetically identical plants or animals, which means they have the same DNA. In 1997, scientist Keith Campo cloned the first mammal from an adult cell, Dolly the sheep. 6 years after being cloned, she was euthanized. Since Dolly, other animals have been cloned, such as cats, rabbits, horses, and donkeys. Another famous animal that was cloned was Carballeira the mouse, born on October 3rd, 1997. In a more reliable cloning technique, he was the first mammal cloned from an adult cell that survived to adulthood. Carballeira died at a shocking age of 2 in mouse years, which is 95 for human years. Carballeira had a good lifespan, for sure. Now people pay an average of $100,000 to clone their passed away animals to bring them back to life. According to TFK, in June 2015, Laura Jacks and Richard Mendez' 8-year-old boxer Dylan died. The couple sent samples of the dog's DNA to Soam. They paid Soam $100,000 for Dylan to get 2 clones. In December 2015, the couple had 2 puppies, what's the name Chance and Shadow. Back to you, Haley.
Thanks, Brandon.
Cloning is good if pets die, especially if they are very special to you.
I can't believe that cloning is so expensive with an average price of $100,000.
I know, right? That's expensive.
I'm Haley.
And I'm Brandon.
And we're from WHAT News, where we keep you updated. Hi there, I'm Ava, and this is WNSB, where we keep you up to date. And now on to our anchors, Matthew and Izzy. Hi, I'm Izzy.
And hi, I'm Matthew. Welcome to WNSB News, where today we have some exciting stories for you, including Ryan was fireman, Gavin was LeBron James, Taylor was American kids consuming too much salt, and Izzy was animal abuse.
But don't forget, Matthew, we also have Jenna with Foxes, Ava with a biography on Coco Chanel, and then Matthew with Frog and Toad on Broadway.
I can't wait to hear all these exciting stories. So let's get started with Ava and Coco Chanel.
Thank you, Matthew. A famous woman once said, in order to be irreplaceable, one must always be different. Coco Chanel, originally known as Gabrielle Chanel, was born in 1883 in Saumur, France. According to Coco's vision of her life story, her mother worked in the poorhouse where Coco was born. Her mother died when Coco was only 6 years old, leaving her husband with the 5 children, whom he promptly abandoned. He sent the 2 boys to a farm and the 3 girls to an orphanage. Chanel adopted her nickname Coco during a brief career as a cafe and concert singer from 1905 through 1908. She drew on the resources of her friends in setting up a hat shop in Paris in 1910 and then expanding into other areas of France. She found customers among women of society, and her simple hats became popular. By the 1920s, Chanel's fashion house had expanded considerably, and her dress design set a fashion trend called the little boy look. Coco relaxed fashion to a more casual look, which was in a sharp contrast to the fashions popular in the previous 10 years. In 1922, Chanel introduced a perfume, Chanel No. 5, which remains popular even today. Chanel introduced the little black dress in 1926 and served as a nurse in World War II. Her boyfriend at the time was a Nazi officer, which negatively impacted her business. But after their breakup, her business grew again. Today, Chanel continues to be one of the world's richest and most famous fashion designers. Back to you, Izzy.
It is very interesting how Coco is able to do so much in a lifetime. I can't imagine making so much clothing.
I didn't even know Coco Chanel even existed until now.
Now on to Jenna with incredible fox facts.
Thank you, Izzy. Did you hear that? It's a fox.
Foxes are all over the nation. I will tell you about these 4 types seen in North America: the small kit fox, the shaded gray fox, the freezing Arctic fox, and last but not least, the scarlet-furred red fox. First of all, a kit fox. A kit fox, the smallest fox in North America, only weighs up to 4 pounds. Also, they are only 1 foot tall. Kit foxes are most likely to be found in the southwest of the United States. They eat rodents, rabbits, fish, bugs, and small birds. Kit foxes don't hunt all at once. They will take turns during the day. They venture out alone when they are only 5 months old. In certain areas, there is a no hunting law in place to protect them. Second is the gray fox. Gray foxes are able to run for a very long period of time. Gray foxes have great eyesight along with sense of smell. They have extremely sharp claws for digging dens. Gray foxes spend most of their time in brush or woodlands. Third is the Arctic fox. Arctic foxes can live in minus 58 degrees Fahrenheit. That is cold. Arctic foxes live in burrows, and during a snowstorm, if needed, they will burrow into the snow for shelter. They also have extremely sharp claws for digging dens. Arctic foxes hunt rodents, birds, and even fish. The tail of an Arctic fox helps it stay warm. Finally, the red fox. Red foxes live in forests, grassland, mountains, and deserts. Red foxes eat rodents, rabbits, birds, and other smaller game. They use their tail for balance. Red foxes are hunted for sport. They are sometimes killed as destructive pests and may be carriers of rabies. These are all the fox breeds in North America. I hope that they are around for generations to come. What do you think? Back to you, Izzy.
Wow, foxes are truly amazing. I do hope they're around for a while. What did you think, Matthew?
I had no idea that some states don't allow fox hunting. And now with Ryan in Firefighters.
Thank you, Matthew. Did you know that Londonderry's 44 square miles are covered by 3 fire stations? In Londonderry, the fire department has 43 firemen and 3 to 4 trucks at each one of the 3 stations. There are 4 battalion chiefs in Londonderry. Each battalion chief is in charge of 10 or so firemen. Londonderry has one of the best life support EMS systems in New Hampshire. The fire department requires very skilled and trained members. They respond to calls and do what is necessary by thinking fast. Londonderry has an advanced form of dispatching that only a few departments have in New Hampshire. Every fireman is trained to be an EMT and a fireman. They have 20 paramedics. To become a firefighter, you need to be 18 years old, have a high school diploma, a valid driver's license, a clean criminal record, excellent vision and hearing, and pass a physical fitness test. An associate's in fire science degree in fire science is beneficial, and passing a civil service exam is required. Bravery, quick thinking, staying calm under pressure, and working well with others are essential qualities to being a great firefighter. Firefighter classes range from 6 weeks to 4 months in length. Practical and classroom instructions are given on how to deal with many topics. Those topics are managing hazardous materials, preventing and fighting fires, treating people injured by fires, and checking smoke detectors. We want to thank our firefighters for protecting the citizens of Londonderry. Back to you, Izzy.
Firefighters are so brave. They are very helpful and amazing people.
And now, here's Gavin with LeBron James.
Thank you, Matthew. Do you like LeBron James? He's an amazing basketball player who has won the 2016 Larry O'Brien NBA National Trophy. LeBron currently plays for the Cleveland Cavaliers. He has a wife, Savannah Brinson, and 3 children, Zuri James, Bryce Maximus James, and LeBron James Jr. LeBron entered the league at age 18 after being drafted number 1 out of high school by the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2003. Then, after staying with the Cavs for 7 seasons, he accepted a trade deal in order to play with the Miami Heat, his good friend Dwayne Wade, and to get his first of 3 championship rings. After 4 years with the Miami Heat, going into the finals 4 times, and winning 2 championship rings, LeBron got another offer to go back home to the Cleveland Cavaliers. He took the deal only because he got what he wanted for the Heat. He got his championship rings. When he came back to the Cavs, he went to the finals twice against the Golden State Warriors, in 2015 and 2016, winning 1 and losing 1. So I guess you can go home again. What do you think, Matthew?
Well, I think that Thomas Wolfe was wrong. I guess you can go home again. And now, with Taylor in American Kids Consuming Too Much Salt.
Thanks, Matthew. Imagine you're sitting in a hospital waiting room. One of your loved ones has just suffered a serious heart attack.
The doctor walks in and says the cause was the salt he ate when he was a young boy. That is what salt can do to you. The effect of eating too much salt can be life-threatening. That all starts when you are a young child. Kids ages 6 to 18 consume about 2,300 milligrams of sodium each day, while the recommended is just 2,300 each day. 1 in 6 children already have a raised blood pressure, which can lead to a high blood pressure. Other consequences are a heart attack, stroke, or of course death. According to CDC.gov, 77%, only 3/4, of the salt we ingest is from processed and or restaurant foods. For instance, an avocado has only 10 milligrams of sodium, while at McDonald's, their top cheeseburger, the Big Mac, has 1,070 milligrams of sodium, while their breakfast hit, like a McMuffin, has 777 milligrams of sodium. If we stop eating so much salt, I can bet you there will be a change in your long-term health. Matthew, after listening to this report, will you change your mind on how much salt you eat? I know I will.
Wow, salty intake is way too much.
Now on to Matthew with Frog and Toad.
Thank you, Izzy. In late 2000, Arnold LaBelle's characters of Frog and Toad came to life with a new production called A Year in the Life of Frog and Toad by Robert and Willie Riel. This is the story of Frog and Toad and the life they live in their woodland homes. Together, they swim, rake leaves, plant gardens, and go sledding. A few years later, Broadway opened up to this new production. They first debuted on April 13th, 2003, with Jay Godey as Frog and Mark Lynn Baker as Toad. They closed on June 15th, 2003, with 73 performances and 15 previews. Then, they later sold the script to Music Theatre International, so other people can make their own Year in the Life of Frog and Toad. On June 8th, 2003, the Tony Awards nominated them for 3 awards: Best Original Score, Best Musical, and Best Book of a Musical. Unfortunately, they lost to Hairspray, but at least they got nominated. Back to you, Izzy.
Now I want to see it on Broadway. Very interesting.
And now, here's Izzy with animal abuse.
Thank you, Matthew. Animal abuse has become a major problem around the world. Many people become overwhelmed with the responsibility and financial pressure of caring for their pets. The effect of their actions are causing an increase in animal abuse, leaving hundreds of thousands of suffering animals every day. Some signs of animal abuse are easy to spot, but some aren't. Signs of animal abuse are hair loss, unexplained injuries, malnutrition, tight collars and shock collars, dogfighting, and lack of grooming. If you notice any of these signs, then report to the authorities immediately. One of the most recent acts of animal cruelty occurred on January 10, 2017 in Rumney, New Hampshire. 36 farm animals were surrendered at the scene as they were suffering many health conditions. Animal testing is also considered animal abuse. Animal abuse can be at zoos if the animals aren't treated in the right way they need to live. For example, many elephants in zoos are held in small enclosures. In the wild, elephants last 50 to 70 years, while in zoos, they may only last about 16 to 18 years. Next time you think about adopting a pet, think about the responsibilities and if you're up for the challenges of becoming a pet owner. Please, if you see any animal abuse, report it to the SPCA by calling this number, 603-772-2921. Back to Matthew in the studio.
Wow, I feel bad for all those abused animals. I'm Matthew.
And I'm Izzy.
And we're signing off.
Hi there, I'm Matt and I'm on the WLES News, where the news is just for you. Now over to our anchors, Marley and Vincent.
Hi, I'm Marley.
And I'm Vincent.
And welcome to WLES News. Today, you're going to hear James with a story about the history of the mobile phone,
Matt with National,
Lexi with sports,
Kenzie with Lindsay Sterling,
Vincent with local,
Roland with National,
Ella with international,
and Marley with the history of the Eiffel Tower.
Now let's head over to James with a story about the history of the mobile phone.
Thanks, Marley. Do you know the first words ever spoken on a telephone? They were first spoken by Alexander Graham Bell on March 10th, 1876, to his assistant Thomas Watson in Chicago. The first ever mobile phone was made by Martin Cooper on April 3rd, 1973. It was called the Motorola Dynatec 8000X. Compared to the iPhone 7, it's about 5 or 6 times wider. Apple's goal was to have one device that would have a widescreen like an iPod with a touchscreen and a touchscreen controls. A revolutionary mobile phone and his internet communications. It took Apple about 5 years to make the phone. If you think about it, it's amazing how much the iPhone has gone on over the years. Now back to you, Marley.
Wow, that's interesting how the phone has changed over time. Now on to Matt with 9/11.
Thanks, Vincent. How many of you could ask your parents where they were during the attack on September 11, 2001, and they could tell you? Let me take you back to that day. It was September 11, 2001. ISIS hijacked 4 planes, 2 hitting the Twin Towers in New York City and killing everyone on board and thousands of people inside. One of the 4 planes crashed into the Pentagon, killing 125 people. The reason is still unknown why ISIS decided to hijack the 4 planes and kill almost 3,000 human beings. About 400 police officers and firefighters died while saving many lives. The last plane that was hijacked crashed into a field in Pennsylvania, just outside of Washington, D.C. On September 11, 2001, at 8:46 a.m., the United States became a nation transformed. September 11th, National Day of Service and Remembrance, is the day to celebrate when all your loved ones, police officers, firefighters, and many others who died on September 11th, 2001. This is also why the emergency number is 911, and it cost just under $3.8 billion to rebuild the World Trade Center and $700 million to rebuild the Pentagon. Many families were devastated and heartbroken on that fateful day in September. And as a country, we continue to honor each and every individual who died. Now a quote from then President George W. Bush. We will remember every rescuer who died in honor. We will remember every family that lives in grief. We will remember. Now back to you, Vincent.
It's sad that nearly 3,000 people died.
Yeah, that's an insane amount of people that died. Let's swing over to Lexi with a story about the history of women's baseball.
Thanks, Marley. Girls, I have a question for you. If 50.8% of the U.S. population is female, then why are we sitting around doing nothing when we should be playing baseball? In the 19th century, Alexander Cartwright invented the game of baseball, never thinking that women would one day play. And yet, in 1866, a team from Vassar College, the Bloomer Girls, toured the country until the 1930s. What Cartwright didn't know was that there would soon be a plan for women to play professional baseball. In 1942, Philip Wrigley, owner of the Chicago Cubs, realized the future of baseball looked bleak because many of the men were in the military. So in 1943, the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League was formed. The experiment by Philip Wrigley lasted 11 years. The female players were told to play to win, but look like ladies and play like men. In 1954, the teams were dissolved because of what was referred to as family fever, pushing women into the direction of being housewives and mothers. So ladies, I ask you, why it's taken so long to get women back into the professional league? Now back to you, Marley.
I can't believe in 1943 it was an all-girl American Baseball League.
I never knew that before. Up next is Mackenzie with Lindsey Sterling.
Thank you, Vincent. Do you know Lindsey Sterling, a famous violinist who plays a blend of hip-hop and dubstep? You might, but I bet you didn't know that Lindsey had many difficult and heartbreaking times in her life. One of her songs speaks to this difficulty. Lindsey's life started out like many of ours. Her parents, Stephen and Diane, had 5 children, Brooke, Jennifer, Marina, and Vova. Lindsey Sterling was born in Santa Ana, California. At an early age, she found interest in the violin and was trained in classical music. In 2015, life became more difficult for Lindsey. She was overcoming anorexia, and a good friend of hers died. To help cope and deal with her pain, Lindsey wrote her famous Shatter Me. After writing this album, Lindsey said, "Breaking free is just the beginning. It's easy to fall into our old habits. You can't feel true joy if you numb the pain." As the album progresses, the sound is softer and turns more optimistic and hopeful. Lindsey lived what she learned from Shatter Me. Tired Mechanical Heart Beats to the Song Disappears are some lyrics to a song Lindsay Sterling wrote. They're inspirational to me, and if they are to you, you should look her up to learn more at www.lindsaysterling.com/about. Back to you, Vincent.
Well, I feel really bad for Lindsay and what happened to her friend.
Yeah, I wonder how Lindsay handled it. Let's see what fun facts Vincent has to say about Londonderry, New Hampshire.
Thanks, Marley. Did you know that the town of Londonderry was incorporated nearly 300 years ago? It is unknown exactly who found Londonderry, but we know they are Scottish and Irish. Originally called Nutfield, the name Londonderry was named for the city in Ireland. Londonderry is derived from the words Derry and London. Derry as door, meaning an oak grove, and London from the city in England. In the 1800s, Londonderry was divided into Londonderry, Derry, Wyndham, Manchester, Salem, and Hudson. Did you know that the first potato planted in the United States was planted right here in Londonderry? Since the Scottish and Irish living there, they had brought potatoes from homeland. Also, one of the first trademarked products was from Londonderry. Londonderry linen was both considered to be the best and has claimed to be purchased by George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. In the 1950s, there were only around 15,000 people in Londonderry, but today we have nearly 25,000, probably due to interstate. Today we have 5 schools, 3 elementary schools, 1 high school, and 1 middle school. We have a library and more than 24,000 people in town. Kevin Smith is our town manager and is working on making Londonderry even better. We can tell the town has grown, and so have the people in it. Back to you, Marley.
That's so interesting that I didn't know that much history about Londonderry, New Hampshire.
Well, I learned a lot too. Up next is Roland with Japanese relocation.
Thanks, Vincent. Japanese relocation was a mortifying time in American history. On December 7, 1941, Japan bombed Pearl Harbor and killed 2,403 people, causing a variety of Americans to believe that there were Japanese spies in America. So on February 19, 1942, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt signed the Executive Order 9066. After that, 10 small internment camps in California, Idaho, Utah, Arizona, Wyoming, Colorado, and Arkansas were all built by September 18, 1942. Most housing 10,000 through 20,000 Japanese in each internment camp. The internment camps carried 120,000 imprisoned Japanese, and more than 2/3 were American citizens. The Japanese had to sweep the dust and eat rice and potatoes with a knife every day. Behind all of that, the Americans forced them to sell their cozy homes and their comfortable furniture. This was a devastating time for their Japanese ancestors, and we should all be ashamed of ourselves for what our nation has done. I hope we can learn from our past and protect the future of all Americans, guaranteeing this will never happen again. In 1988, President Ronald Reagan signed the Civil Liberties Act of 1988 so that every Japanese in the internment camps and survived got $20,000. Our nation did not follow what our nation stands for, freedom. We will remember all the Japanese that were sent to the internment camps and died. We should all take time to remember the innocent Japanese in the horrid internment camps and assure this will never happen again. Back to you, Vincent.
That's so sad that so many people died that day.
That's a lot of people that died during that bombing, and I wish nothing like that happens again. Now over to Ella with the extinction of red pandas.
Thanks, Marley. Did you know that the red pandas is becoming extinct because their food source, bamboo, is being chopped down to clear land for farming? The red panda is also being killed to make medicine, and its fur is being made to use lucky wedding hats. Red panda lives in the northern Burma, central China, and the mountains of Nepal. There are about 10,000 red panda adults left in the world. That is sad, isn't it? They look like a raccoon because they have a mask around their eyes. Isn't that cool? These furry little creatures like to live in the cool, rainy weather and are actually related to the giant panda. Red pandas are tree dwellers. Female red pandas like to live in the fork of a tree in the daytime. However, the males do not. Their fur acts like a camouflage and blends in with their habitat. With the red panda's habitat, they'll eat bamboo,
will steal eggs from other birds' nests, eat flowers, bark, grass, mushrooms, leaves, and berries. Red pandas are becoming threatened because people are hunting and poaching them. The government is trying to protect them in zoos all around the globe so they can be safer. They are also under official government protection nearly everywhere. The red panda species survival program is working here in North America to manage the population. If the survival of the red panda is important to you, please consider making a donation. Now back to you, Marley.
I so wish that the red pandas weren't going extinct.
Yeah, I really want to help them. Last but not least is Marley with the history of the Eiffel Tower.
Thanks, Vincent. Some people may ask, why was the Eiffel Tower in Paris, France built? Others may ask, why is the Eiffel Tower such a tourist attraction? Well, the Eiffel Tower was built by Alexander Eiffel in 1889 as a temporary exhibit for the Paris Exposition at a cost of over $1 million. The final design of the tower took about 18,000 pieces. It took about 2 years and several hundred construction workers to build it. In 1889, the first and second floor was finally open to the public, but in 1931, all floors were finally open. The Eiffel Tower has 670 steps, and the wait for the elevator is between 1 to 2.5 hours. So why is it such a tourist attraction? For years, it was the world's highest structure. In World War I, the tower was used as a military observation station. And the tower has restaurants, a weather station, and spaces for experiments. It appears in many television and radio broadcasts, and it is considered an architectural wonder. It is also a place for romance. Just ask Rod Stewart and Tom Cruise, who both got engaged there. Definitely an attraction I would want to see. What about you, Vincent?
Wow, I really want to go there sometime.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for watching WLES News, where the news is just for you.